Today is another one of those days. Actually, first, I just want to address that I am feeling... I'm going to have to get a new one of these because it keeps doing the focusing thing. I don't know why I don't want to just stay focused. Like, I'm not moving that much. But first, I want to address... I should have brought tissues over here. But I want to address that I am feeling better than yesterday. Yay, yay, yay. The sleeping, the water, the rest, the turmeric, the ginger, the garlic, all of it. I've been drinking it as tea. I've been taking it as shots just to make sure that my immune system is boosted, because what we will not do is spend an eternity fighting colds when we got work to do. Okay. We're going to jump in today to Exodus 7 through 9, and then Psalms 19. Yes, it is our 19th day. Yeah. Couple more days. 3 more days till this becomes a full habit. But, like cultural, 21 days to make things a habit situation. So we're driving in. We're driving up. We're getting close. It's gonna be good. I'm a little excited because, yes, I am feeling better, but I also want to make sure that, these are my days off, so I'm going to try to rest up as much as I can because I can only delay my schedule for so long. But even in the rest, there is work to be done. So, I'm just trying to be mindful of shoring up my immunity while not pushing myself too far, while, I do what I promised not only myself to do, but the fellow daughters and the Lord, So, I would like to recap, but I'm really kind of drawing a blank here. Yesterday, we went through 4 to 6, and the day before that, on the 17th, our 17th day, we read through Exodus 1. From Exodus 1, that's when we started it. In the beginning of Exodus, it does a 400-year jump. From the 400-year jump, we meet Moses, who we find out, how he came to survive Pharaoh's manhunt and execution of the firstborn Hebrew children, boys, firstborn Hebrew men, in order to diminish the reproductive capabilities of the Israelite people. So all of the people are enslaved. All of the Egyptian people are fearful for the sheer strength of the Israelites and their strength in number. They worry that, or at least Pharaoh has seeded the doubt. Now, this is a Pharaoh who doesn't know Joseph, right? So he doesn't know what Joseph has done for the Egyptian people. Hence, 400 years is a long time to erase some key points in history. And even when you know it, even when you heard it, you don't know it. So there is that disconnect there, which is why the Israelites fall under such harsh treatment. The favor of Joseph has kind of worn off the kings of Egypt. The favor of the Israelites have kind of worn off down the line of the kings of Egypt. So we come to find out a little bit about Moses being adopted by the princess of Pharaoh after being sent down the river to survive by his mother. Then we find out that when he learns that the Israelites are his people, he gets angry when he sees an Egyptian beating one of the Israelite slaves. He kills them, what he believes to have taken place in the shadows, but it was seen and then that being seen was spread throughout the land. It soon Pharaoh hears about this. This is the first Pharaoh who enslaved them, I assume. The first Pharaoh who enslaved the Israelites. He hears about this. He calls for Moses' blood. Moses goes on the run. I forget where he lands in terms of being on the run now from Egypt. Then years pass. He has a wife. He finds favor with a priest who has taken him in. The priest gives him his daughter as his wife, Zipporah. I'm gonna have to start muting this for the sake of this video. Yes, he finds favor with Jethro, and ends up marrying his daughter. And further down the line, we find out that the daughter actually ends up saving Moses' life by executing a very impromptu circumcision on, a very impromptu circumcision on their son in order to save Moses from the Lord's wrath. Now, I was very rattled by this. I was rattled by the understanding of this verse because, what? Moses gets sent on his way. This is, of course, after he's called to action by this burning bush. God speaks to him. First, the burning bush is set. The stage is set by God's angel, right? The angel of the Lord sets the stage, aka, the burning bush. Moses is in awe. He gets drawn to it. Then God speaks. Moses, they have this whole conversation where Moses is a little resistant in doing what the Lord is asking of him, but eventually, after being equipped with 3 various miracles, after being allowed to have a spokesman, his brother Aaron, after, God tries to satisfy his pleas, he's like, well, now you got it, go on your way, you got what you got. So while he's on the road trying to get to Egypt to handle the Lord's business, God's over here he's enraged. He got angry at something because he comes down to the inn that they're staying at in order to take Moses' life. Yeah, like I said, yesterday was a day of rest, but trust me, it is noted because I want to do more and more research onto that verse. I did a brief amount of research on the live, and it was depicted that, first of all, this is a highly controversial verse up for a lot of theological debate, and second, one of the takes on it that got me to understand a little bit more, to ease my mind a bit, was that Moses angers God by not having his son circumcised. He doesn't have his son circumcised in accordance to Abraham's covenant with the Lord. Now, Moses is part of the Abraham lineage, so it's necessary for the descendants for Abraham and his descendants to be circumcised as a mark of their covenant on the 8th day of their birth, after the 8th day of their birth, on the 8th day of their birth. It's an 8-day-old baby, and it needs to be circumcised at that point in order to prove the mark of their covenant. I further go into a theory that Moses doesn't know about this because of the way he's adopted, because of the way he's sent down the river, because of his disconnection with the Hebrew people. He wouldn't have known the acts of what to do to ensure his covenant. So, or to even look that he's a part of the covenant. I also would assume that maybe his mother or his parents, before sending him down the river, would have circumcised Moses anyway. Would have circumcised Moses first, because it was 2 months when they sent them down the river. So that would have already happened. But yeah, the article further goes on to say that it says that, like, God would kill his own lawmaker for fear of having him die to sin because there could be no obedience of faith where there isn't a mark of the covenant or a promise kept of the covenant. Yeah. Something like that. So I just, I think it's very important. It's immensely important that if there is a standing covenant between God and his people, that covenant be upheld, because it's clearly, God's gonna do what he do in order to keep the covenant alive, right? Like, he's gonna do what he do in order to deliver his portion of the promises he's made to us. Now, how far will we go in order to keep our portion of the promises we made to God, or to uphold our portion of the contracts between us and God? The contracts. Like, what do we need to... Yes, there are promises in place given to us down the line. However, it's never just I promise I'll do this, you sit back, don't do nothing. So there are some stipulations in place in order for us to be able to receive the promises of God. That is now one of the points of my research, not research, but one of my points in wanting to clarify or to understand as I read through scripture some more. Okay, that's everything, I think. Yeah. So we'll jump in. If there's something else that needs to be contextualized, I will do it then. Aaron. Yeah, we're on Exodus 7. Exodus 6 ends in... Oh, sorry. Okay. So more. Exodus 6 ends with, like, we see that Moses and Aaron go and tell the people what God wanted them to tell him, and ask for the freedom of the people, and God hardens the heart of the Pharaoh, we know. And we know that this is, or at least I hypothesize that this is in order to fully uproot the evil of Pharaoh, to fully, like, you gotta cleanse all of that so the people of the Israelites can really feel free from Pharaoh's reign and presence and all of that. So, Pharaoh kind of laughs in their face. And he increases the workload of all of the Israelites by telling them they're going to have to collect their own straw for brick making, but they still have to make the same amount of bricks. This makes the Israelite people skeptical to all of Moses' words, and this makes his mission harder. So he ends up pleading to God, like, why'd you send me here if all of this wasn't going to, like, work out? Why'd you send me here if I was just gonna make this worse? And then you would want me to go back to Pharaoh So Exodus 6 ends with, when the Lord spoke to Moses in the land of Egypt, he said to him, I am the Lord. Tell Pharaoh, the king of Egypt, everything I am telling you. But Moses argued with the Lord, saying, I can't do it. I'm such a clumsy speaker. Why should Pharaoh listen to me? So again, Moses is trying to disqualify himself because of his speech impediment. I don't know if he has a full, I don't know what his full speech patterns are like, but it's enough of an insecurity in him to want to keep striving, to want to keep disqualifying himself from the God's call. So Exodus 7 starts with Aaron's staff becomes a serpent. Then the Lord said to Moses, pay close attention to this. I will make you seem like God to Pharaoh, and your brother Aaron will be your prophet. Tell Aaron everything I commanded you, and Aaron must command Pharaoh to let the people of Israel leave his country. Not ask, command. But I will make Pharaoh's heart stubborn so I can multiply. Oh, he says it. It's like a full-on, whoa. Okay. But I will make Pharaoh's heart stubborn so I can multiply my miraculous signs and wonders in the land of Egypt. Even when Pharaoh will refuse to listen to you, so I will bring down my fist on Egypt. Then I will rescue my forces, my people, the Israelites, from the land of Egypt with great acts of judgments. When I raise my powerful hand and bring out the Israelites, the Egyptians will know that I am the Lord. Okay, so we see that there are multiple tasks that God's trying to accomplish in this situation. He wants to free the Israelites. He wants the Egyptians to know who their God is, who the Lord is. So he's trying to both free a people and instill a fear of him in a people all at once. I'm going to read this in other translations because I just don't trust Bible translations like that. I'm going to read this in King James real quick. You will stop backing up. And I will harden Pharaoh's heart and multiply my signs and wonders in the land of Egypt. But Pharaoh shall not hearken unto you, that I may lay my hand upon Egypt, and bring forth mine armies, and my people, the children of Israel, out of the land of Egypt by great judgments. And the Egyptians shall know that I am the Lord, when I stretch forth mine hand upon Egypt, and bring out the children of Israel from among them. See, there's a line here, a verse here that says, yeah, it's verse 5, Exodus 7, verse 5. It says, verse 4. Even when Pharaoh will refuse to listen to you, so I will bring down my fist on Egypt. Then I will rescue my forces. And then it goes on to further explain what he means by forces. I will rescue my forces. I will rescue my people. I will rescue the Israelites from the land of Egypt with great acts of judgment. So being one of God's people, like you see memes, I mean maybe you see memes of this, I know I do, let me know if you do. of when you're like, yo, I'm calling up God in the year 2020 to just make sure I'm not on his strong warriors list, you know? Because being one of God's people means that you are one of his forces. You are one of his those things are one in the same. You cannot be God's people and not expect to be used in God's battle. Now, the question is how much he will put on you, because he will only give what you can to what each can hold, you know? He's not going to overwhelm his forces. But, well, maybe he will overwhelm, but he's not going to do it in a... I don't know. He's going to use his forces. He's going to use them wisely, but it's never to destroy them. Because he does want to break you down, but only to build you back up again. And he does want to, like, overwhelm you, but only so you know that you can only rely on him. So I'm having a really hard time choosing my words right here. But I know for a fact that God will only give you what you are capable of handling by his mind, by his sight, not your own. Not your own understanding of what you are capable of handling, but God's understanding of what you are capable of handling, and those are different things. So, yeah, it's one and the same. You can't be God's people and not expect to be used by him. You can't think that you can just, like, cruise on the easy lane of, like, oh yeah, I'm in God's grace, you know, because all of us have a gift in order to expand and serve his kingdom. Okay, so in the Good News translation it says, "But I will make the king stubborn, and he will not listen to you, no matter how many terrifying things I do in Egypt. Then I will bring severe punishment on Egypt and lead the tribes of my people out of the land. The Egyptians will then know that I am the Lord when I raise my hand against them and bring the Israelites out of their country." But I will harden the Pharaoh's heart so that I may multiply my signs and my wonders in the land of Egypt. So it literally, like, literally tells you why he hardens the heart of Pharaoh. Like, you really would think, yo, like, you want him to release your people, but then you harden his heart, so why? I'm glad that in the time where I read that, like, I didn't get this far into, not this far in Exodus, but this verse wasn't near it. There was no response right away. There was just you see how they delayed an answer for you because you have to operate in faith completely. Now, if I wasn't reading this in the full story, and I haven't been, I read the verse of I will harden Pharaoh's heart before, but did I read God's full reasoning of why right away? Did I understand, oh, okay, was this right next to it? No, because I had to go through the faith questioning, the arguing, the like, hey, God, what you doing? Like, I had to go through all of that because it strengthens, it sharpens, it honed my faith and my belief. It really did. Because as I was going through, I was like, well, why would God do that? If I operate with the base understanding that my God is a good God, the God that I follow provides for people, the God that I follow does not have plans to harm us, he has plans to prosper us. If I follow these core tenets, right, like the unshakable logic, I have to have unshakable logic that God is a good God, okay? There's no way that he's out here just hardening people's hearts so that he can be all vengeful. That's just not what he's doing. He's not being petty by hardening someone's heart. Like, that's not what he's doing. He's not trying to trap Pharaoh in his punishment, you know? He's just cause he's doing what he has to do in order to increase the goodness he has to supply for two whole nations of people, Israelites and Egyptians. But I came to that answer after rattling through my brain. You know, I came to that answer not just like here be spoon-fed answers, but after really diving into who I know God to be. Like diving into who I understand my God to be. And then asking my spirit, the Holy Spirit, who helps me, who guides me, who protects me, to help me understand what would happen in this verse, to see it as if it were playing out as a current moment in history. How would this go down, and why would it need to go down this way? Sometimes when you're reading some like, whoa, God, you did what? Crazy stuff? You just gotta give them the benefit of the doubt that there was a greater purpose. Okay. I need to note that because it's pretty much just the response, but I will make Pharaoh's heart soften. So, no response. Reasoning behind why Pharaoh that's not what I want to do. Being one of God's people is akin to being a force for God. Being one of God's people is the same. Okay, that leads us to 6. So Moses and Aaron did just as the Lord had commanded them. Moses was 88 years old and Aaron was 33 when they made their demands to Pharaoh. Then the Lord said to Moses and Aaron, Pharaoh will demand, show me a miracle. When he does this, say to Aaron, take your staff and throw it down in front of Pharaoh. It will become a serpent. So Moses and Aaron went to Pharaoh and did what the Lord had commanded. Aaron threw down his staff before Pharaoh and his officials, and it became a serpent. Then the Pharaoh called in his own wise men and sorcerers, and these Egyptian magicians did the same thing with their magic. So here we start to see magic and miracles have this battle, so to speak. It's a rap battle. It's like who can one up who, you know. It's a slam. It's like whatever, my magician can do that too. What else you got? You know? So Moses, wait. They threw down their staffs, which also became serpents. See, here's the thing. I know for a fact God knew the magicians there could do the same thing. So he didn't give them miracles that, you know, were out of their reach. He gave them the same exact miracles that the people there can, what miracles that they performed. So he can reclaim the power of those miracles? So, like, I know you think your knockoff brand is just as good as my real deal, but look at the real deal one more time. Something like that? But then Aaron's staff swallowed up their staffs. Sorry. Pharaoh's heart, however, remained hard. He still refused to listen, just as the Lord had predicted. That's funny. Get your knockoff out of here. Like, you God is funny. I know you think it's the same thing, but you just won't compare, honey. You just eat it. That's so funny. They threw down their staffs, which also became serpents. So you got this one serpent of Aaron's eating up all of the serpents of the wise men and sorcerers. It doesn't say how many, but we know it's multiple. That's funny. It's funny. But it's not even like, I mean, well, yeah, that's kind of impressive. Like, could you imagine watching, like, let me set the scene real quick. You're in, maybe I don't even need to set the scene. Maybe the Prince of Egypt will set the scene for us. But you're in the royal chamber or whatever, right? You're in the throne room. And you're like, God sent me, let the people go. Or, like, I am sent by the power of God. And you're like, prove it. And he's like, look at the staff. Boom. Snake. What you gonna do? Look. You think I can do that? Look. That's my God. But then, Pharaoh's like, yeah, whatever. Like, my people can do that too. And so his people come up, take the staff, throw it down. And they're like, see what you, that's nothing. And then you have to watch now all of the snakes there be devoured by one snake. Like, snakes don't eat that much. And I assume that these are of relative size to a staff. So these are pretty big snakes, bruh. Like if you're holding a shepherd's staff, those are pretty, like, that becomes the size of, I mean, is a representation for how big this thing is. And it's just a snake wrestling pit with this one snake of Aaron's going like, yeah, y'all ain't shit. Like, sorry. God's funny. I just know he did that on purpose. I just know he did. Like, he's like, yeah, I know they can do it too. This is what we're gonna say. You know, do it this way. As petty as God. I'm sorry. Sometimes he just be like, yeah, this is how we're going about this. Okay. Sorry. I'm back. A plague of blood. The Lord said to Moses, Pharaoh's heart is stubborn, and he still refuses to let the people go. So go to Pharaoh in the morning as he goes down to the river. Stand on the bank of the Nile and meet him there. Be sure to take along the staff that turned into a snake. Then announce to him, the Lord, the God of the Hebrews, has sent me to tell you, let my people go so they can worship me in the wilderness. Until now, they have refused to listen to him. And until now, you have refused to listen to him. So this is what the Lord says. I will show you that I am the Lord. Look, I will strike the water of the Nile with this staff in my hand, and the river will turn to blood. The fish in it will die, and the river will sink. The Egyptians will not be able to drink any water from the Nile. Could you imagine drying up? Or watching the whole Nile River turn to blood, watching all the fish die, and then watching it dry up. I'm sure it doesn't happen all at once, though. Maybe, I don't think it happens all at once. Nothing so far has happened all at once. Like, nothing in terms of like the pacing. The pacing is usually leisurely. Like, it'd be years. It'd be like years before. So, then the Lord said to Moses, tell Aaron, take your staff and raise your hand over the waters of Egypt. All its rivers, canals, ponds, and all the reservoirs. Turn all the water to blood. Everywhere in Egypt the water will turn to blood, even the water stored in wooden bowls and stone pots. So Moses and Aaron did just as the Lord commanded them. As Pharaoh and all of his officials watched, Aaron raised his staff and struck the water of the Nile. Suddenly, the whole river turned to blood. Oh, it was sudden. Okay. So like a bam and then a foof. Suddenly, all of the river turned to blood. The fish in the river died. The water became so foul that the Egyptians couldn't drink it. There was blood everywhere throughout the land of Egypt. But again, the magicians of Egypt used their magic, and they too turned water into blood. So Pharaoh's heart remained hard. He refused to listen to Moses and Aaron, just as the Lord had predicted. Pharaoh returned to his palace and put the whole thing out of his mind. Then all the Egyptians dug along the riverbank to find drinking water, for they could not drink water from the Nile. 7 days passed from the time the Lord struck the Nile. The Nile. Is that an Eminem lyric? Again, God is using, like, you can't tell me there's no purpose here. There's a purpose to God using the exact same abilities these wise men and magicians and sorcerers have. There's a purpose. I don't see it yet. I think it's really funny. But there is a purpose to why he's doing it this way. Like, you can think this power comes from you if you want. You can think this power is attainable through human means. I wish I knew how the wise men were acquiring their magics, you know? How were they turning water into blood? How were they turning their staffs into snakes? Miracle versus magic, the showdown continues. And we know that the miracle will always outweigh the magic. Will always. 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 Yeah, I think there's a structure here. Like, not only do you know that the heart of Pharaoh is hardened, but you are also aware that using methods he's seen before, or using methods his people can do, will keep him skeptical. Like, it's not wowing his mind because he has someone close to home. He thinks he's capable of it. You're only wowed when you see someone do something outside of your capability. You're only then like, oh, how did you do that? That's the only moment. But all of the miracles God could have chosen to use, all of the methods, all of the everything at his disposal, all of the universes at his disposal, he chooses to use the methods that these wise men and sorcerers are capable of, knowing full well. Alright, so 7 days pass, and this Nile, I assume, is still blood. So, need to check. Gotta get yourself the extra long cord. Okay. So, let's see. A plague of frogs. This is Exodus 8. The Lord said to Moses, "Go back to Pharaoh and announce to him, this is what the Lord says. Let my people go so they can worship me. If you refuse to let them go, I will send a plague of frogs across your entire land. The Nile River will swarm with frogs. They will come up and out of the river and into your palace, even into your bedroom and onto your bed. They will enter the houses of your officials and your people. They will jump into your ovens and your kneading bowls. Frogs will jump on you, your people, and all of your officials." And then the Lord said to Moses, "Tell Aaron, raise the staff in your hand over all the rivers, canals, and ponds of Egypt, and bring up frogs over all the land." So Aaron raised his hand over the waters of Egypt, and frogs came up and covered the whole land. But the magicians were able to do the same thing with their own magic. They too caused frogs to come up on the land of Egypt. Then Pharaoh summoned Moses and Aaron and begged, "Plead with the Lord to take the frogs away from me and my people. I will let your people go so they can offer sacrifices to the Lord." "You set the time," Moses replied. "Tell me when you want me to pray for you, your officials, and your people. Then you and your houses will be rid of the frogs. They will remain only in the Nile River." "Do it tomorrow," Pharaoh said. "All right," Moses replied. "It will be as you have said. Then you will know that there is no one like the Lord our God. The frogs will leave you and your houses, your officials, and your people. They will remain only in the Nile River. So Moses and Aaron left Pharaoh's palace, and Moses cried out to the Lord about the frogs he had inflicted on Pharaoh, and the Lord did just what Moses had predicted. The frogs in the houses and the courtyards so I guess the day has changed between the day has changed between verse 11 and 12. So then Pharaoh steps out of Moses steps out and the post, and then he pleads to the Lord, and the Lord did just as Moses had predicted. The frogs in the house, the courtyards, and the fields all died. The Egyptians piled them into great heaps, and a terrible stench filled the land. I guess we weren't eating frogs then, huh? But when Pharaoh saw the relief had come, Pharaoh saw that relief had come, he became stubborn. He refused to listen to Moses and Aaron, just as the Lord predicted. Okay, so there's the soften of heart here, but it's not even for the people of Israel. It's more for the inconvenience of having frogs jumping all over your bed while you're trying to sleep, you know? He's like, give me relief. Like, okay, you can go, they can go, but just, like, give me my peace of mind. But Pharaoh's heart is still hardened by God. So he has more miracles to perform. Okay, so a plague of gnats. So the Lord said to Moses, tell Aaron, raise your staff and strike the ground. The dust will turn into swarms of gnats throughout the land of Egypt. So Moses and Aaron did just as the Lord had commanded them. When Aaron raised his hand and struck the ground with his staff, gnats infested the entire land, covering the Egyptians and their animals. All the dust of the land of Egypt turned into gnats. Ugh, I'm sorry. Like, I can't even. The frogs were one thing, but the gnats, all of that, oh my god. Have you ever gotten to, like, walk through a swarm of gnats, like a small swarm, and you just feel like there are bugs on you for, like, a good 30 minutes, okay? Now, just all of the dust of the land of Egypt becoming a gnat. It's just a cloud of gnat, like, oh no. I couldn't. Bugs are not it for me. Pharaoh's magicians tried to do the same thing with their secret arts, but this time they failed, and the gnats covered everyone, people and animals alike. So now we've upped the ante to the point where, like, okay, you thought you had this, but now you see you can't. Your secret arts don't bring you this far. So we up the ante. They can no longer participate in placing the bets. You know, it's out of their reach and into just the realm of miracle. This is the finger of God, the magicians exclaimed to Pharaoh. But Pharaoh's heart remained hard. He wouldn't listen to them, just as the Lord had predicted. I love the repetition of just as the Lord had predicted, just as Moses had predicted. Because it's like, this is all according to plan, essentially. All according to plan. That's what the Lord is. All according to plan. Like, so then he did it this way. All according to plan. And then it just like, it's a repetition of like, know that while it seems like things were out of control, because ultimately Pharaoh wasn't listening to the commands of the Lord, he doesn't want you to think that this was out of his plan. Like, him being disobedient was the plan. Like, all according to plan. But so one of the other things that's striking me right now is that that started with what the people, the wise men and their magicians and stuff could do. And then he's like, alright, so you think you're good. Like, alright, cool. He had to not only shatter their belief in themselves and their own capabilities and the people around, but he had to do that for the people around them as well. Oh, he brought these frogs, but I've seen the magicians do this. The magicians can do that. He has to rattle a whole spiritual stronghold that people think the Egyptians might have thought wise men, secret arts, magicians, sorcery, all of that. He's combating the structure of that. Like, oh, you think it's as powerful? Oh, you think you can do this much through your own means? Through a means outside of me? Well, you're wrong. And let me show you how wrong you are. I'm going to take you, and we're going to start running this race together, but then you're going to see how far behind you get left. Don't mess. Don't play. Don't play with the Lord. Okay? A plague of flies. Then the Lord told Moses, get up early in the morning and stand in the Pharaoh's way as he goes down to the river. So the Pharaoh's still going down to the river at this point. I don't know if the river's back to normal. But there's more frogs in the river. Okay. I know, I think the river's back to normal, right? Because 7 days... 7 days passed from the time the Lord struck the Nile. And then he moves on to the next plague. So I would assume that I don't think these plagues are layered on each other. Like, they cleared up the frogs and then sent in the gnats. So I assume that they cleared up the plague of blood and then sent in the frogs, and then cleared up the plague of frogs and then sent in the gnats, cleared up, one, and then the other, but who knows. Maybe the Bible will tell me further down the road. So, frogs, gnats... Are gnats and flies not like the same thing? Because it's a plague of gnats. Aren't gnats like baby flies? Like, gnats versus flies. Gnats are... Is a gnat considered a fly? Gnats are a colloquial term for small fly. They belong to the suborder of flies. It takes about 2 weeks for the feeding the pupae and emerge as mature flying pets. Both gnats and flies have some of the same features. The chef Okay, gnats and flies are different. That's what we're gonna go with. Very similar, but different nonetheless. I really don't care to do that much bug research, if I'm being honest. They're different for the sakes of what I need to know. A plague of flies. The Lord then told Moses, "Get up early in the morning and stand in Pharaoh's way as he goes down to the river. Say to him, 'This is what the Lord says. Let my people go so they can worship me. If you refuse, then I will send swarms of flies onto you, your officials, your people, and all the houses. The Egyptian homes will be filled with flies, and the ground will be covered with them. But this time I will spare the region of Goshen, where my people live. No flies will be found there. Then you will know that I am the Lord, and that I am present even in the heart of your land. I will make a clear distinction between my people and your people. This miraculous sign will happen tomorrow.'" And the Lord did just as he said. A thick swarm of flies filled Pharaoh's palace and the houses of his officials. The whole land of Egypt was thrown into chaos by flies. Pharaoh called for Moses and Aaron. "All right, go ahead and offer sacrifices to your God," he said, "but do it here in this land." But Moses replied, "That wouldn't be right. The Egyptians detest the sacrifices that we offer to the Lord our God. Look, if we offer our sacrifices here where the Egyptians can see us, they will stone us. We must take a 3-day trip into the wilderness to offer sacrifices to the Lord our God, just as he had commanded us to do." I like that multiple times Moses is the one replying to Pharaoh. It's not Aaron talking to, Moses isn't just wallflowering in the corner, not saying anything, and letting Aaron do all of the talking. So even when he was protesting, like, "Yo, I'm not a good speaker. No, I can't do all of that," he's still rising up to the task of doing the talking to Moses, of asking Moses for these things. He's still rising up to his calling. But once he got started, once he moved through the doubt, once he really just got the push to go and was there in the thick of things, and his insecurities kind of faded away. So get caught up in the work, and then, keep doing the work. The work you're worried that you are disqualified for, the work you're thriving, you have some sort of desire to go into, the work you're wanting to push yourself into, but feel like there's something holding you back, there's something in your being that disqualifies you, just do it. Just do it until that insecurity no longer nags away because you're so caught up in actually doing the work. Okay. Go ahead and offer your sacrifices to our God, he said, but do it here in this land. Oh, sorry, wait. Commanded us. Okay, so we're at Exodus 8:28. All right, go ahead, Pharaoh replied. I will let you go into the wilderness to offer your sacrifices to the Lord your God, but don't go too far away. Now hurry and pray for me. Moses answered, as soon as I leave you, I will pray to the Lord, and tomorrow the swarms of flies will disappear from you and your officials and all your people. But I am warning you, Pharaoh, don't lie to us again and refuse to let the people go to sacrifice to the Lord. And then Moses left Pharaoh's palace and pleaded with the Lord to remove all the flies. And the Lord did as Moses asked, and caused the swarms of flies to disappear from Pharaoh, his officials, and his people. Not a single fly remained, but Pharaoh again became stubborn and refused to let the people go. Okay. So here's my other point of like, yes, this is all according to plan because God has more in store for Pharaoh. More plagues, more miraculous wonders, more all that. He has more in store. My question here is like, he could have easily just when the Pharaoh's heart is soft because of the inconvenience of the frogs and the flies. When his heart is soft and he's like, go ahead, do what you need to do, go sacrifice, just pray for me. Could have very easily left first and then prayed and then or like prayed and then like the second we leave and reach our destination in the wilderness, you will find relief from this plague. You know, you could have tied those two things together so that your freedom would have just been, it would have been attached to the removal of the annoyance. There would be no reason or no room for Pharaoh to be like, oh, I changed my mind. Because there would be sort of like a down payment on the removal of the annoyance. But I know that this rhythm, I know that this hardening of the heart, that this method has a cause. It needs to go down this way as according to the Lord's plan. How many times has his heart become stubborn? Like, I'm gonna go back and count that. It is needs to be now. But I'm gonna go back and count that. Like, his heart becomes stubborn quite a few times. We know it's hardened, and we know it's hardened because that's what the God wanted. That's what God wanted. But, yeah. A plague against livestock. Go back to Pharaoh. Go back to Pharaoh, the Lord commanded Moses. Tell him, this is what the Lord, the God of the Hebrews, says. Let my people go, so they can worship me. If you continue to hold them and refuse to let them go, the hand of the Lord will strike all your livestock, your horses, your donkeys, camels, cattle, sheep, and goats, with a deadly plague. But the Lord will again make a distinction between the livestock of the Israelites and that of the Egyptians. Not a single one of the Israelites' animals will die. The Lord has already set the time for the plague to begin. He has declared that he will strike the land tomorrow. And the Lord did just as he had said the next morning. All the livestock of the Egyptians died, but the Israelites didn't lose a single animal. Pharaoh sent his officials to investigate, and they discovered that the Israelites had not lost a single animal. But even so, Pharaoh's heart remained stubborn, and he still refused to let the people go. Could you imagine being one of the Pharaoh's people, not knowing that the stubbornness he's exhibiting is one of Pharaoh is assured by God. Essentially, it's like it's a guarantee that he's going to be stubborn. But it's so true to his character that they see no flaw here. Like, they see no, like, why are you being so stubborn about this? You're not usually like this, right? Like, that would have struck them as something unusual. But in this case, it can't, because this is in Pharaoh's character. Could you imagine being one of his people and being like, yo, plague after plague? Would the Pharaoh just let the people go already? Like, just being tired and fed up. Like, he's not listening to his advisors. He's not listening to the people around him. But he's still leading the Egyptians in a war, essentially, against God. Yeah. Yeah, because you're trying to fight out or survive through all of God's plagues. You're trying to disobey his command. You're trying to rebel. This is a war against God, and you're leading all of your people through it. A plague of festering boils. Then the Lord said to Moses and Aaron, take handfuls of soot from a brick kiln and have Moses toss it into the air while Pharaoh watches. The ashes will spread like fine dust over the whole land of Egypt, causing festering boils to break out on people and animals throughout the land. There were animals? Oh, yes, because there are other animals besides livestock. So they took soot from the brick kiln and went and stood before Pharaoh. As Pharaoh watched, Moses threw the soot into the air. The boils broke out on people and animals alike. Even the magicians were unable to stand before Moses because the boils had broken out on them and all the Egyptians. But the Lord hardened Pharaoh's heart, and just as the Lord predicted to Moses, Pharaoh refused to listen. It's not lost on me the irony of using the soot from the brick kiln in order to enact this plague of festering boils, right? Because you were using brick making to hold down the Israelite people. You were like, yo, make all of your bricks, make your quota of bricks. They've been making bricks for how many years, you know? For you, they've been using that kiln. For your construction of your cities, of your bricks, of your items, they've been using that kiln. God's like, take the ashes from that, and I'm gonna spread it and fester and boil. Like, you can't tell me God's not one, creative, and then two, like, kind of petty. Like, but only against his enemies. Like, don't get me wrong, but like, he's like, okay, he uses the material before him. He's like, alright, you're gonna have them making all of them bricks? Yes? Let's see. Use the ashes from that brick kiln and spread this plague for me. Ah, it's so poetic, it hurts. Lord, you're so, Lord. That's funny. That's funny stuff. I'm just gonna laugh. There's nothing else I can do but laugh. Like, that's funny. I want to laugh. see. Can I put emoji in here? Use. This is using. And use the product. Go ahead and use the byproduct. Byproduct of the Go ahead and use the byproduct of the Israelites' burdens to spread this plague. Yeah, that's just funny. That's just. It's just God right there. He's amusing. Did I lose it? I lost it. Okay. A plague of hail. Then the Lord said to Moses, get up early in the morning and stand before Pharaoh. Tell him, this is what the Lord, the God of the Hebrews says. Let my people go so they can worship me. If you don't, I will send more plagues on you and your officials and your people. Then you will know that there is no one like me in all the earth. By now I have lifted my hand and struck you and your people with a plague to wipe you off the face of the earth, but I have spared you for a purpose. Oh, okay, so sorry. Redo. By now I could have lifted my hand and struck you and your people with a plague to wipe you off the face of the earth, but I have spared you for a purpose, to show you my power and to spread my fame throughout the earth. But you still lord it over my people and refuse to let them go. So tomorrow at this time, I will send a hailstorm more devastating than any in all the history of Egypt. Quick, order your livestock and servants to come in from the fields to find shelter. Any person or animal left outside will die when the hail falls. Are we talking ice hail? Or fire and brimstone hail? Are we talking... What are we talking here? Hail. Nope, all hail. 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 Also, this command is quick. Order your livestock and servants to come in from the fields to find shelter. Any person or animal left outside will die when the hail falls. This isn't a time where media can just spread the word within a day, within a couple of hours, that you have to take shelter, you have to seek shelter. So there are going to be people of Egypt who do not hear what's going on through, like further from the palace or further from the capital. The word's going to take a minute to spread to them. They're not going to hear what's going on. They're not going to be able to find shelter. So there's a guarantee that some of the populace is going to be outside when the hailstorm starts. But here we see another highlight of why God is going this hard. And it's really just a repeat. Like God already said, I'm going to do this to show my signs and wonders. By now, this is in Exodus 9:15 through 15, 16, okay? By now, I could have lifted my hand and strike you and your people with a plague to wipe you off the face of the earth. But I have spared you for a purpose, to show you my power and to spread my fame throughout the earth. But you still lord it over my people. So God's doing this for his glory. To God be the glory. And then the order, he's giving Pharaoh a chance to save some people here. He's like, go ahead, quick. It's already on the docket. Go, tell them, seek shelter. If you're outside, when the storm hits, you're done for. Some of Pharaoh's officials were afraid because of what the Lord had said. They quickly brought their servants and livestock in from the fields. But those who paid no attention to the word of the Lord left theirs out in the open. That's the other thing, that there would be people who, one, didn't hear, and people who, two, heard and didn't believe. Like, what do you mean it's not going to happen? Mind you, they faced plague after plague. Like, why would you even, I guess you're not even going to put a monochrome of, oh, that's possible, that could happen. But we know people, come on. You think the entire nation's going to believe that this will happen? Come on. So we about to wipe off some stubborn-mouthed people here. Then the Lord said to Moses, lift your hand toward the sky, so hail may fall on the people, the livestock, and all the plants throughout the land of Egypt. So Moses lifted his staff. Again, this is Aaron's not really doing it here. This is Moses. It moved on directly to tell Moses what to do and directly to watching Moses do it. So, I guess Moses started growing into his own, so to speak. Lift your hand toward the sky, so hail may fall on the people, the livestock, and all the plants throughout the land of Egypt. So Moses lifted his staff toward the sky, and the Lord sent thunder and hail and lightning flash toward the earth. The Lord sent a tremendous hailstorm against all the land of Egypt. Never in all the history of Egypt had there been a storm like that, with such devastating hail and continuous lightning. It left all of Egypt in ruins. The hail struck down everything in the open field, people, animals, and plants alike. Even the trees were destroyed. The only place without hail was the region of Goshen, where the people of Israel lived. The Pharaoh quickly summoned Moses and Aaron. This time, I have sinned, he confessed. The Lord is the righteous one, and my people and I are wrong. Please beg the Lord to end this terrifying hail and thunder. We've had enough. I will let you go. You don't need to stay any longer. This whole time all of these plagues are going through, I wonder if Aaron and Moses are staying at the palace. Are they staying in a room in the palace somewhere? Because the storm was still going on. And they replied to Pharaoh's summoning so quickly, as it would have been perceived. Then they have to leave the palace in order to do the prayer. And they have to, this whole time was Moses and Aaron staying at the palace? Where was Moses, Aaron, and his family staying? Their families staying during this whole thing? Were they staying with the Israelite people in Goshen? Because honestly, the implications here, it switches up, right? Because the Israelites have no idea what's going on. If they're not, no one's around to tell them. Because Moses and Aaron are in the palace. They're not giving them, hey, heads up, this plague is coming. Oh, but you'll be fine. They're not giving them, oh, yeah, God said this time he won't touch the animals of you. You're just seeing this happen around you and witnessing the separation, the safety, the sanctuary that you've received in Goshen. Where were Moses, Aaron, and his family during this whole situation? Also, how much time has passed? Oh, they told us Moses' age and Aaron's age. Moses was 88 and Aaron was 33. So I'm assuming that after all of this wraps up, they'll tell us their age again. Alright. Alright, Moses replied. As soon as I leave the city. They're smartening up. Soon as I leave the city, I will lift my hands and pray to the Lord. Then the thunder and hail will stop, and you will know that the earth belongs to the Lord. But I know that you and your officials still do not fear the Lord God. All the flax and barley were ruined by the hail because the barley had formed heads and the flax was budding. But the wheat and the ember wheat were spared because they had not yet sprouted from the ground. All of Exodus 9:31 is just parentheticals. 9:31 and 32 are parentheticals. So this is just just to give you some more context, this was spared. So this would, okay. So Moses left Pharaoh's court and went out to the city. When he lifted his hands to the Lord, the thunder and hail stopped, and the downpour ceased. But when Pharaoh saw that the rain, hail, and thunder had stopped, he and his officials sinned again, and Pharaoh again became stubborn. Because his heart was hard, Pharaoh refused to let the people leave, just as the Lord had predicted through Moses. All according to plan. This is a rough year for the Egyptian people, man. I'm gonna say I'm for sure, due not want to be on the side of the team that is receiving all of this play after play after play situation. I want to be in Goshen. I want to be in the sanctuary of God's people. I just no. I don't want the flies. I don't want the gnats. I don't want the boil infestors. I don't want none of this. I don't want, the water blood situation. No. What am I gonna drink? I love water. Like, Lord. No. And as much as I could assume frog legs are tasty, I've only seen them cooked once, and I've never eaten them. I've never prepared them. I don't have to deal with all of the frogs. And the croaking would drive me insane. Like, could you imagine how loud it was when there's just like nothing but frogs croaking day and night in your bedroom, like throughout your homes? Oh my gosh. I don't want to be a part of it. I want to be in Goshen where it's safe. No. Okay. You gotta make yourself right to be in Goshen. Let's go. At what point do you think the Egyptian people started rebelling against Pharaoh? Do you think they did at any point start rebelling? Like, come on, Pharaoh, let them go already. Like, I know I would have been done. I would have been like, yo, Pharaoh, you're being stupid now. I'm not about this. I would have put out my posters. I would have been protesting. Oh my gosh. This is Psalm 19. For the choir director, a Psalm of David. The heavens proclaim the glory of God. The skies displayed his craftsmanship. Day after day, they continue to speak. Night after night, they make him known. They speak without a sound or word. Their voice is never heard. And yet their message has gone through the earth, and their words are all the world. God has made a home in the heavens for the sun. It bursts forth like a radiant bridegroom after his wedding. He rejoices like a great athlete eager to run the race. The sun rises at one end of the heavens and follows its course to the other end. Nothing can hide from its heat. The instructions of the Lord are perfect, revealing the soul. The decrees of the Lord are trustworthy, making wise the simple. The commandments of the Lord are right, bringing joy to the heart. The commands of the Lord are clear, giving insight for living. Reverence for the Lord is pure, lasting forever. The laws of the Lord are true, each one is fair. They are more desirable than gold, even the finest gold. They are sweeter than honey, even honey dripping from the comb. They are a warning to you. They are a warning to your servants, a great reward for those who obey them. How can I know all the sins lurking in my heart? Cleanse me from these hidden faults. Keep your servants from deliberate sins. Don't let them control me. Then I will be free of guilt and innocent of great sin. May the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be pleasing to you, O Lord, my rock and my redeemer. Ooh, I've definitely heard verse 14, Psalms 19, 14. Oh. That's a church prayer right there. That you would hear that prayer. May the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be pleasing to you, O Lord, my rock and my redeemer. But I really enjoy, if I had to adopt one of these into prayer, scrolling to verse 12. How can I know all the sins lurking in my heart? Cleanse me from these hidden faults. Keep your servant from deliberate sins. Don't let them control me. Then I will be free of guilt and innocent of great sin. I think that's a primo, like, yeah. This card, I'll just do this later. Okay. Well, y'all, that's the run through. That's the run through of 9, Exodus 7, Exodus 8, and Exodus 9 into Psalms 19. Plague after plague. That's what we witnessed today. We all know that the Pharaoh's heart was hardened throughout this whole process. And honestly, I think it was just to solidify his character, his nature already. But as a thought process, as you go through and meditate on this, the reading of today, I want you to truly think about, like, how would you react to witnessing these plagues run through your land, both as an Egyptian who's not aware of the inner workings of what's happening in Pharaoh's court. Like, the officials know. Pharaoh knows. The officials know. But the Egyptian people, how aware are they that all of this conversation is happening because of what's happening between Pharaoh? Like, how well known is that news? So meditate over it based on, like, a couple positions, right? Try to see it from a Egyptian who knows nothing about why this action is taking place. Try to think of it as an Egyptian official who did believe in the powers of his own wise men, like, just the different figures involved, as someone who believed in witchcraft and secret arts, and then seeing the limits that they can't. What was it? The plague of gnats. That was the first plague that was beyond their power. Facing the realization of your lack of power. Oh, this is the finger of God. Really coming to that foundation, because it's going to shake that one sentence rattles everything you thought up until then. You put a lot of your time in order to acquire sorcery and your magic and your secret arts in order to do that, and then suddenly you're faced with a power greater than your own. Then there are the officials who probably didn't have the sorcery in their own hands, but they still believed in the power of Pharaoh, the power, their high position. They still believed in the power of the wise men next to them, like. And then to see Moses, a shepherd, and his brother, a shepherd, come in and perform these miracles, and you're like, what's going on? Like, what is it up? Only for it to escalate to the degree to be the one who starts to be like, oh, God is God. God is out here angry and seeking the freedom of the people. Do you then become someone who tries to convince Pharaoh to let the people go? Like, yo, like, just do what he's asking for. Or do you try to hide off and separate yourself from Pharaoh for fear? Like, what moves would you make in that scenario? Because honestly, as much as I can read through this and laugh about God's, like, the irony God is using, or the repetition of knowing that this was all his plan, there's assurance in hindsight. I do not know how I would act in the moment of all of these plagues going down. But even as an Israelite, when all of this hellfire and fury is being raised for your benefit, what if you don't know that? I mean, yes, it's faith, right? Like, God didn't go to them and be like, this is what I'm going to do, here's the plan. He didn't run the plan down for them. So every time Pharaoh refused to let them go, all they're seeing is the ups and downs of this. All they're feeling are the ups and downs of this. Oh, we can go. Oh, we can't go. Oh, we can go. Oh, we can't go. Oh, we're free now. Oh, we're not free. Oh, all they're feeling is the ups and downs of that emotional process. Like, he's gone through this. He's gone through that. What does he need to let us go? You're going to sense, like, the disappointment of your freedom being toyed with. Also, how do you sit in hellfire? Hell. I'm assuming it was hellfire. Watch all the destruction unfold around you. And sense the peace in your space, in the fields offered to you, knowing that you have a God, right? The God of my father, the God of my ancestors. And not bow a knee in prayer and just like, God, thank you. And praise, pray and praise. Fear of the Lord, does it strengthen your devotion or does it weaken it? I have so many questions. From a human perspective, like, I read the narrative, but from a human perspective, on the ground, in the moment, also Moses, like, being the one to actually have to lift his arms and watch this fall, like, whoa, it's a lot. Being the one who actually has to take the kiln soot and throw it into the air. Being the one who strikes that was Aaron. Being the one who strikes the ground and watching it turn to blood. Like, being the physical servant, the one enacting these chain of events, the one knocking over the domino. From that perspective, that's a huge burden. That's a burden. That's a huge weight. Especially the hailstorm, because then you're like, these people died. A lot of death. A lot of death. The boils, like, watching as the wise men can't even stand in front of you anymore. I assume that they fell over due to the pain of the boils. That they couldn't stand in front of you because they're rolling on the ground in pain. Yeah, so as the day goes through, just meditate. Pick a perspective in the story and try to imagine how you would have experienced that moment with the highest bit of empathy that you can, and then pray over it and ask, like, is there truth in this? Is this truth to this experience? That way, this doesn't feel like just something that was told, like just a story that was read to you, or just a story so far off in the distance. Make yourself live in that moment, because honestly, the uncertainty that's faced, the plagues that are faced, the events of life, we don't know the social chains that are happening because presidents or world leaders are making decisions in spaces outside of our reach. We don't fully understand. We can trust news, whatever. We can trust that some of the stuff that we hear is the accurate decision, but you don't know for sure. yeah, I think the exercise of that empathy exercise would just definitely help you try to like sharpen your faith a little bit. Like, how far would it have gone? How far would you have been pushed? How would you have managed that anxiety? Like, what would you do if that was your life, if that was your reality in those moments? I would love to hear it back from you guys. Like, if there's a perspective you choose and what you came to think about after going through the thought process, and if anything was revealed to you in doing the thought process, go ahead, let me know in the comments, and I'm gonna be on my way, okay? I'm gonna get to bed. No, I'm gonna go eat. I haven't eaten. I'm gonna go feed myself for nourishment. Ooh, well-timed stomach grumble. Goodbye.